Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us with our festive evening with Veronica Henry. Obviously, we were supposed to have this in person, but we've had to move it to a virtual platform. So wherever you're tuning in from Facebook or from YouTube, welcome and thank you so much for being with us. And a big thank you to Veronica. Thank you.
Hello, everybody.
If you do have any questions, please pop them in the comments box and I will make sure that I do pass them on for you. But we're going to chat all things wonderfully festive and Christmas. So Veronica, tell us a little bit about your wonderful Christmas read.
Oh, yes, Christmas at the beach.
The beach part. Yeah.
Wow. I'm imagining that maybe some of the audience out there might be able to relate to this. I absolutely love Christmas, but I do know how stressful it is, especially I think when your children move into the teenage years and are sort of completely obsessed with their own agendas and timetables and aren't really interested in chiming in with your plans. And I just wanted to write a book, about a middle-aged woman who is slightly disenchanted with Christmas and falls out of love with it, even though it's her thing. And everybody sort of gradually chips away at her and erodes her excitement. So her husband doesn't come home from the office party, kids are out, she's waiting to dress the tree with them. They have the annual sort of, ritual of she makes a big lasagna, they all dress the tree together. And they're like, no, we're out with our mates, we're doing this, we're doing that. And she's just left there with the lasagna in the oven and the tree sitting there waiting for the husband to get the decorations down. And she just thinks, do you know what? I'm off.
She's just blame her. Do not blame her at all. Yeah.
So she goes off, gets in the car, goes to a friend's. Very luckily, she has a friend who's got a beach hut on the coast in Devon, and she knows where the key's hidden, and she slips inside, drags all the Waitrose shopping with her, all the nice bits, leaves a copy of Delia Smith open on the kitchen table and says, get on with it. There's the menu plan. you guys do it. See ya. And of course, when she arrives at the beach huts, there are other people in the beach huts surrounding her that have also kind of slightly run away from Christmas for different reasons. And at the same time, her family are mortified when they find out what's happened, but they haven't a clue where she's gone. So it's kind of like, oh, we didn't take notice of our mummy and now she's gone. So yes, it's a fable. It's a, be nice to the mums story. Of course, there's an uplifting, fabulous ending. But, things happen along the way. And Lizzie, the heroine, discovers a few things about herself and her past, because it's somewhere that she spent her childhood, actually teenagehood, with her mate who owns it. They were kind of 16-year-old girls dancing to Madonna. And there's a few ghosts from the past that kind of pop up. So yeah, it's a sort of mixture of nostalgia, the spirit of Christmas kind of slightly being eroded and then rediscovered. Kind of, I suppose. I think somebody's done that before. Like a Christmas Carol a bit, that sort of, sort yourself out or else.
I think, it's so relatable because I think we've all had that feeling like, oh my God, I just want to run. I just want to run and just, not even think about this massive dinner that I'm planning or this, this massive perfect Christmas that, you kind of think in your head that you have to have.
Exactly. And I don't want to be sexist, but it very often is the women that sort it all out, because men don't sit there and go, oh, who's going to do all the stocking fillers and the decorations and the food and the Christmas cards to all the people that you haven't seen for years, all those little obligations that we have and little expectations that people have. And I think men are just like, oh yeah, office party, better get something for the wife, and that's the end of it. If that doesn't sound too dismissive of their role.
Men disagree. Men, if you're watching and you disagree, please say in the comments.
Well, I think they choose the bits they like. So if they're good cooks, they'll probably sort of edge in and take over, which is really annoying, isn't it? When you've had to do the Sainsbury's. I'm sure there are lots of lovely husbands out there that are really super helpful and rush off and get bags of ice or whatever you need at the 11th hour. But in my experience, and having observed friends, quite often it's just too much. And I think we put huge expectations on ourselves as well. We sort of think, if we don't home make the Christmas pudding, it's a disaster. So we set ourselves up. But actually, I'm all for doing the bits you like and shelving the bits that you don't. So if you don't want to write Christmas cards, just send an email.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You don't want to make your pudding
already. So Sylvia says
hello. Hello.
And Claire says, will you ever go back to Honeycoat in another book?
Oh, Honeycoat, that's another place that's wonderful at Christmas. That's in the Cotswolds. And Honeycoat was my very first book. And it's actually now been retitled A Country Christmas, repackaged by the publisher. But yeah, it's the Lydiards. They're quite sort of slightly dysfunctional, slightly eccentric, glamorous family who live in a big house in the Cotswolds, and they have a family brewery, which is their sort of Ewing oil, if you like, in Dallas. So it's a family-run thing, and there's lots of infighting and feuds, and who's in charge and who's in control. But yeah, they're all very high-spirited, and I would love to go back. Actually, I've written 3 books, I think, set in Honeycoat, and the last one of which must have been 15 years ago at least. So I'm sure lots has happened in the meantime. So yeah, I'd love to go back there and find out what they've been up. Please. Especially as like real ale and beer is really, like, when I wrote it, beer wasn't really very fashionable, particularly. Real ale people were great, massive fans, but it wasn't a kind of hipster cool thing. Whereas now, so yeah, I think things would have changed.
We have like a whole new readership. Be amazing.
Yeah, it'd be fun, really fun. And I know they're just great characters, and it's a beautiful setting. It's all that honey stone and gorgeous houses, and yeah. So
Claire's very happy. She's very, very happy. She's clapping.
Yay!
But also, I think with your comment about the men, she did say they take over the carving. It's like barbecue.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Well, where's the knife? And they do a lot of lots of theatre, but no potato peeling. Sorry, very, very sexist, but it is what it is.
Exactly. And while we're on the subject of Christmas stories,
yes,
is there a story that you go back to every Christmas, or do you? Yeah, tell us about your reading habits.
I think, like, probably again, like lots of people who are watching right now, Little Women, the Christmas scenes in Little Women. Every time, I was really lucky a few years ago to be asked to do a reading in a church locally that was doing a big fundraising for the NSPCC, I think. And I chose that piece where Marmee kind of says, we've got to give all our things to give it all away, and they go and do the big breakfast. So yeah, I think that's that sort of. And then I saw on the internet, on Twitter, I think the other day, or was it Instagram? There was a book by a writer called Elizabeth Goodge, who wrote a lot of children's books, and it was called I Saw 3 Ships. And I suddenly had a complete flashback to my childhood and remembered that I'd loved that book. I can't remember what it is about, but it just, when you just get that, like a flash of flashback. So I'm going to try and find it. I'm going to see if it's probably
Elizabeth
not.
Goodge.
Elizabeth
All right,
brilliant.
Okay, cool. If anyone's read it, please pop a comment in the comments box and let us know. That sounds fantastic. Thank you. Great.
I Saw 3 Ships, it's called.
3 Ships. Amazing.
And of course, A Christmas Carol, like 2 years ago now, pre-COVID, I think, a bunch of us went to the cinema to watch Simon Callow reading A Christmas Carol, which was and it was sort of done in a very Dickensian house, all cobwebby and very atmospheric. And he just did, how fantastic he is. So that, of course, that's the most enduring story of Christmas, really, apart from the real reason for Christmas. So yeah, that I could, if anybody ever gets a chance to see that, I don't know if it's available as a download or Simon, I was going to say Simon Cowell, not Simon Cowell. Simon Cowell, slightly different. Reading A Christmas Carol is very, very atmospheric and seasonal and festive, and
Amazing. Thank you. No, that's brilliant. And I mean, there is a very obviously there's a massive thing in publishing, isn't there? Book is published in October. There's like the super Thursday, isn't there? With all the books leading up until Christmas.
Yes.
And obviously a lot of authors bring out new Christmas books.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think is the whole motivation behind that, you know, and what's so great about gifting books at Christmas?
Oh, golly. I think, I mean, for me, it's one of the joys that I've got 3 boys, so, and they still have stockings. They're
Yes.
13, 25 and 18. I suggested stopping stockings and they were just like, no.
It's the best bit.
Not allowed. And the book, I try and get them the same things. I'm not going to give away what they're having because it's mostly usually pants and socks, stuff like that. But they always have a book each. But I like to choose something for them and their personality. They don't have the same book. They have and that's one of the great joys. I think Stanley Tucci might figure quite heavily this year in their book choice. The Kukri, his yeah. But yes, I mean, I think it's quite nice when you know people really well, but then you try and find a book that you think that they might not have had, but will really inspire them or take them away somewhere else. It's a challenge, but obviously being a book person, I have a lot of insight into what's available out there, and you know, sometimes something pops up and I just think, oh my god, that'd be the perfect present. And I quite often buy books for people throughout the year if I've fallen across something particularly special. I just think, like when the Nigel Slater Christmas Chronicles came out, I don't know if you've read that.
I haven't, but I've seen it and I'm like, oh, I must.
It's the most stunningly written book ever. It is like it's just magnificent, and I just bought that for all my foodie friends because I just thought, you need this in your life. You need to feel like I feel when I open that book, which is just excited and enchanted and inspired. So yeah, I think people should buy books all year round for people. Just see it and go, oh my god, they'd love it. Because
absolutely,
what nice if you take somebody somewhere else for the duration of the read. Yeah,
I mean, there is that sort of meme that goes around on Facebook going, oh, in Iceland on Christmas Eve, they shared books, don't they? And I see that every single year and think like, oh, what a wonderful idea. I'm going to do that next year. And then I forget, you know.
Yeah.
So it's a meme again.
I can't think what it's called. It's got some elaborate sort of Scandi name, hasn't it? I can't remember what it is exactly. But yes, they've got the right idea, and I think we should adopt that to keep. And you know, I think one of the lovely things about now is how people have gone back to real books. I mean, absolutely, digital books have their place. Of course, they do. We have to move with the times, but I think it's fabulous that people still, well, you can see behind me, love a real book. And I think books make a home. I don't want to walk into somebody's house and see bare walls without a glimpse of who they are. You know,
there are books that way.
Yeah. Yes. But you can tell whether you're going to get on with somebody by what's on their bookshelf, can't you? Straight away.
Yeah, absolutely. You go on a date with someone or you go to visit someone for dinner and you're like,
Yeah.
Are we ready for gel? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Or you just want to jump up and say, oh my god, can I borrow that? That looks amazing. And yeah. No, it really is. It's a extension of one's personality and character, I think.
Absolutely. Oh, Jackie says the Simon Callow Christmas Carol is available on BBC iPlayer now.
Well done. Thank you. In fact, I will definitely rewatch it. It really is a delight. A real, you know, it'll get you right in the spirit. Pour a little glass of wine or something more Dickensian. Make some mould something.
Do it. Mould something. Whatever.
Mould
it's fine.
Something.
Mould.
West Hill, whatever that is. I don't know.
And Claire says, I think people have a bit of a time at Christmas to wind down and read. And what better way of spending a bit of me time?
Exactly. Just your breath. There's so many demands on our attention, isn't there? There's like Netflix and the internet, and yeah, so it's just really lovely to literally, you know, that curling up thing is just so nice, isn't it? And
oh, it's brilliant, you know, and it's something that I had a discussion with someone recently that, you know, actually sitting down with a physical book and actually sitting down to read is something that you really have to focus on, you know, and something that's in with, you know, with self-care. You know, you can't do anything else. You just have to focus on your book. Whereas, you know, listening to an audiobook, no disrespect to people that listen to audiobooks, I think it's wonderful. You do other things at the same time.
Yeah, that's my I do audiobooks when I'm driving if I've got a long journey. I don't do them at home particularly. I should do them on dog walks, I suppose, but I do need my full attention when I take the dog out because she's quite naughty. But yeah, in the car, and I've started listening to, what did I start listening to? Because I had a long drive the day before yesterday. The Foundling by Stacey Halls. Oh my God, how good is that book? Have you read it?
Yes, love it, love it.
So clever. I was there.
Mm.
Absolutely there. And it's beautiful because it's sort of easy writing, if you know what I mean. But easy writing is really hard. It's not easy to do, easy to listen to and easy to read, but it's not, you know, you have to be very gifted to be able to conjure up that sort of atmosphere and the picture of where everybody is and that period detail without it being clunky, and then just immediately take people back 300 years and for it to be
Yeah.
completely believable and authentic and real. It's wonderful.
And you know, I think that's a really, really good point actually, that easy writing or easy reading isn't easy to write, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's
Yeah.
something that you do really, really well.
Oh,
You
well,
know,
that's kind. Thank you.
they just draw you in, and the pages turn themselves, and the characters are just so relatable, but
Oh,
comforting. Not in a oh my life's awful way, but in a oh yeah, I get that. I get that.
yes.
But you know it, you know you aren't going to be left feeling absolutely distraught at the end.
Yeah. I mean, it is a fine balance because you have to put people, you know, your characters in difficult situations. Otherwise, there isn't a story. You can't sort of go, oh, she woke up and it was all fabulous, and then loads of fabulous things happened, and then there was a fabulous ending. I mean, that isn't a story, is it? So you've got to kind of turn their lives upside down a little bit, challenge them a little bit, push them,
Mm.
have, you know, tricky things going on and tough decisions to make, and you know, people get let down, they get betrayed or whatever, you know, whatever. So you have to portray all of that without it being you know, it's certainly in the genre that I'm writing in, you know, you don't want to go too dark, you don't want to lose hope ever, you know.
Well, this is it. It's that balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Realistic, but not too realistic, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah, not so you're
Really
wallowing in people's misery, and you know,
mm,
there's plenty of books if you want that. There's plenty of books that, you know, I think books at the moment are sort of divided into books that you read and you think, oh my God, I'm glad that's not me. You know, all the chiller thriller, domestic noir, stabby
mm,
stuff. And then there's books like the ones that I write that are, oh my God, I wish that was me. So
yes.
it's sort of, it's either that the thrill of reading something slightly terrifying and just thinking, phew, thank God, but also having that luxurious escape and thinking, oh, I'd like that for myself.
For
Mm.
sure. Absolutely.
And there's room for both, obviously, depending on your mood.
Absolutely. You know, and one thing, like we were talking about just before we came live on air, was the Hillingdon Libraries. We did a little book fair during the day. I say little. We did a book fair during the day. We sold 50 of Veronica's books. So well
That's
done.
so amazing. Thank you for everybody who bought one.
Thank you.
And
Um,
hope you enjoyed it.
But also, there's such different tastes, isn't there? There's such different tastes out there, such different variety, you know.
Mm.
It must be so difficult to think like, oh my God, you know, which niche is this going to hit, and which story is this
Oh,
going to resonate? You know, which people is this the story going to resonate with? You know, do you think about your audience before you write, or do you just have an idea and just go with it?
it's so difficult, I
Mm.
think, especially with social media now and everybody being quite judgmental on social media. There's been a big thing in the papers recently about romantic fiction being left out of, you know, prizes and reviews, and people being very sniffy about it. And then it's very easy to get very indignant and get caught up in it. But, you know, it's like, do you know what? Rise above it. Romantic fiction is one of the biggest genres.
It's
There's
huge.
a lot of people making, you know, a nice living out of it. So it's not exactly to be sneered at, really, is it?
No.
And within that genre, there are lots of, you know, I don't set out to particularly write a romance. I have lots of characters in my books. You know, so that's multi-generational. It's not your classic girl meets boy story at all, but it is romantic in that it is probably in a romantic setting or a romantic lifestyle. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's a romance. So what do I start? It's really hard. Every book's different. But I usually start with the setting. So I think, where do I want to take my reader? Do I want to take them to the seaside? Do I want to take them to the beach at Christmas? What was my last book? We might. Yeah, that was
Quiz.
yes.
What was Veronica's last book?
And my next book is actually set in Somerset, in a beautiful village on a river in Somerset, which is one of my favourite counties. It's a slightly overlooked county in terms of literature, but very beautiful. There's a lot going on there, lots of interesting characters. It's a nice lifestyle. So I just kind of wanted to explore that and get under the skin a little bit. And it's very much full of people, especially now, you know, running away from London or the city, you know, to have that country life. So I love that kind of, you know, fish out of water, people arriving somewhere and thinking it was one thing and then thinking, oh, it's not quite how I thought it was going to be. And then it turning out not to be what they expected, but maybe better, but in a different way.
Mm.
Yeah. So I can't remember what the original question was. I've rambled on. Yeah.
No, don't worry about it. We have some wonderful questions from people that are tuning in. Jackie says, how do you start a new novel? With characters or the plot or the title?
Yes. So as I just explained, I usually start with the setting, but a setting does not a story make. You know, so that's not a story. That's just a, you know, somewhere. So it's a bit like, do you remember the Lloyd Grossman Through the Keyhole show? I kind of go through the keyhole and think, who would live or be in a place like this? Who am I writing about? Who interests me that would be here, and why? You know, what's their scenario? So that's kind of what I'll start with the main a main pair of characters usually, or a family perhaps. Sometimes a single protagonist, like say for example Lizzie in the Christmas at the Beach Hut.
Yep.
Although she does have a family, but you know, it's her story.
Main, isn't she? Yeah,
exactly. And it just sort of, it's kind of a layering process. It's really weird. It doesn't come fully formed, but it's sort of, it's fun. And I you know, I have a Pinterest board, for example, or I'll cut things out of magazines and I think I really want this to be in it. I don't know, like I saw in the book that's coming out in February, I just wanted a pig farmer in it. I just fell in love with some pigs.
Absolutely.
Ginger pig. And I just thought, you know, it doesn't mean anything. It's just a pig farm. But it's fun, you know. It's an ex-policeman, actually. No pig joke, please. Who, you know, leaves the police force and decides he wants to breed rare breed pigs. So there's, you know, I'll have lots
baby ones, like micro pigs.
Well, they're quite big, quite big, quite naughty, escaping pigs. But yeah, so it's almost like I'm making a cocktail. I have a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And I'll pop that in, bit of lime juice, bit of Angostura bitters, top it up with some Prosecco. So lots of different ingredients that go into it. And then I try and make sense of it all. Which is, there does come a point at which I have to sort of start making some sort of a plot. So I will plot it out up to a point, but then I kind of start writing to see what happens. So I'm neither a sort of massive plotter, and I don't go by the seat of my pants either. It's sort of a little bit of both. But I have a background in television. I was a scriptwriter, so I think my brain kind of is doing a lot of the work for me that I don't realize is there, that I haven't necessarily written down. So I think my brain kind of is doing all of the plotting for me as I go along. I'm thinking, if you write that, then that's going to have an impact on what you think is going to happen. So, but I think every writer's different and has a different process. There isn't a recipe, and you have to find your own method, I think. And I never do it the same way twice. Sometimes I'll write chronologically. Sometimes I'll, if I've got 2 or 3 different strands or timelines, I'll write one timeline, then another timeline, and then mold them together. It's a bit chaotic, really. It's not very professional.
What? It works. So it's brilliant. Thank you. We have another question from Lynn going, what kind of books do you like to read? My favourite book of yours is High Tide. Love that book and the cover.
Oh, yeah. No, I loved High Tide. Yeah, that was based on Foy in Cornwall. I go to the literary festival there every year but I hadn't been actually when I wrote that book, I don't think. But yeah, so if you want to go to where it was set, that's where to head for, Foy. And what kind of books do I like to read? Do you know what? I read everything. I'm quite a sort of scattergun reader. I have I can't tell you how many books on the go at once, again, depending on my mood. I love reading classics as well, because I sort of quite like to go back. I find it quite distracting reading contemporary books, because I worry that it's either a case of you read a book and you think, oh my God, it's so brilliant, I'll never be able to write like that, which is a bit inhibiting. So, for example, I try and avoid reading Marian Keyes when I'm writing, because she's such a genius and so magnificent and so
How dare she?
Yeah. So she'll be a treat for when I've finished. I know she's got one coming out any minute now, hasn't she? So
that's the sequel to Rachel's Holiday.
Yeah.
Yes.
The best book ever written. Yeah. But I like a bit of crime. What have I just? Oh God. Do you know what? It's so funny. Whenever anybody asks me that question, I go completely blank. I can't remember. And I know I've just written. Oh, I know what I've just written. I know what I've just written. No, read Snow by John Banville, who's an Irish writer. And I think it's sort of quite high up the charts at the moment. It's the coldest book I've ever read, because it's set in winter in the snow in Ireland. Oh, it's really, his descriptions are incredible. And it's a body in the library book. It's basically somebody's found murdered in the big house. It's a local priest, and all the suspects, and the local policeman is trying to figure out who done it. So it's a very classic formula, but it's he's an extremely good writer. So I really enjoyed that. So yeah, I like it's really important as a writer to read as well, because that's what makes you better. It's a bit like, if you're a chef, you need to try other chefs' recipes or eat other chefs' foods. You only learn by experimenting and trying new things and absorbing other people's genius, basically. Yeah.
Who do you most sort of emulate, apart from Marian Keyes?
Oh yeah, no, I wouldn't even try to emulate her, because she's just unique. Well, Julie Cooper, the other queen, who I've met a couple of times, and just lots of like, she's so nice. She's so genuinely warm and sweet, just the nicest person ever. So yes, I adore her. She's so vivid, her writing, her characters. You can smell them, can't you? Do you know what I mean? That you just know, her powers of description are extraordinary, really. But her sense of fun as well. I love that. But also she's smart and bright. She's very poetic in her writing as well, I think. Again, another example of actually, she is very well respected, but that kind of it's just a bit of nonsense, but it isn't at all. It's extremely well written, beautifully written. So
absolutely, the subject matter doesn't dictate, the quality, does it? Just because it might be about a romance or something. Yeah, absolutely.
And there's nobody that doesn't swoon at all of that. But also then, you know, I go back to people like Daphne du Maurier, who's just a word witch. Her plotting is so taut, her characterization and the sort of psychology behind all of their motivations and the plot twists. Again, just an incredible author to learn from, I think, and just think, how does she do that? I try not to think too much and look at it's like looking at the back of a piece of knitting and seeing, you know, where all the joins are and where everything's tied up. I don't want to see behind the scenes too much, or the puppet master pulling the strings. I want to just read it and enjoy it, but sometimes I can't help but sort of analyze and figure out.
I think, you know, being that, you know, the puppeteer yourself, it must be quite difficult not to see the strings.
Yeah, and one hopes by the end of it that there aren't any. It's all seamless, absolutely seamless.
Absolutely. Great. We have another question. Claire asks, is the Forever House based on a real house?
Oh, no. Do you know what? Things are always a sort of amalgamation of all my favorite places that I've been, or, you know, they might start off inspired by a particular place, but then to suit the story, they might need to have the kitchen in a different place, or a third floor or a tennis court, or so they kind of evolve. I'll see something and then it grows into its own identity, if that doesn't sound too twee. And I can't remember now, the Forever House. I think probably I love Country Life, the magazine Country Life, and all the properties for sale in the front of that. So I imagine that I was probably leafing through that and, you know, thinking, oh, which one shall I have for however many £1 million? It is a very beautiful house. But I can tell you one, An Eligible Bachelor is based on a real house that I went to view. I think it was my 4th novel that I was about to write, and I saw this manor house for sale in the Birmingham Evening Post, and just phoned up and made an appointment to view it just for a laugh. And I was amazed that the estate agent was like, "Yep, fine." I thought, I haven't even asked, you know, if I've got enough money to buy it. Clearly, I hadn't. But I went and looked around, and it was just instantly just the whole story for An Eligible Bachelor unfolded immediately. I just thought, right, this needs to have a, you know, dishevelled 30-something hot bachelor at the helm who's struggling to keep the manor house afloat and keep his mother happy, and, you know, it's his inheritance and he's stuck with it. But, you know, it's eating the money. So how does he keep it all afloat? As I speak, I'm seeing it on Netflix. What do you think?
Oh, that's another good question, actually. You know, with the script writing, obviously writing and script writing are, you know, different beasts, aren't they? Sort of like different art forms.
Yes, very
much. When you're writing a novel, do you see it in script form as well?
I see it very, very visually. I do see it like a film unfolding in my head, definitely. And kind of, and that's why I write from a lot of different points of view. Some people don't; they like to just have one. But because I've got a background in continuing series, long running dramas like Holby, Heartbeat, I always have lots of different characters' points of view, which can be challenging because it's, you know, you've got a lot of people to manage. But yeah, it's just like a movie, and I just kind of write what I've seen in my head. I imagine a lot of writers do like that. I don't know. That's interesting, actually, whether some writers think in words. I don't know.
That is an excellent.
I don't know.
Thinking words or thinking pictures? What would you say? Or is it like a 50-50?
It's kind of a bit of both, because quite often the words will be sort of roaming around my head, but I'll definitely see and, you know, it's kind of, you know, touch it and smell it, and, you know, you have to invoke all the senses when you're writing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it's exhausting, I can't tell you.
we have another question from Kate, who says, where do your characters go when you finish a book? Do you pack them away, or do they stalk your
Oh,
imagination and keep knocking on the door?
oh, that's such a great question. I think they just are like that in suspended animation until I pick them up again. But I do go back, and I have done sequels to books sometimes, but you know, I have to write a book a year. I have to leave them there. It is a shame, but I know that they're always there if I want to go back to them. And you know, I do go back to them because I might talk about a particular book on something like this and remember it and think, oh yeah. And sometimes I go back and read them and think, God, what was going through my mind at the time? It's almost like a diary. You think, oh right, okay, so I was into that band at that point and I was eating that food, and that's what I think about those sorts of people. It's interesting to see how you evolve. But yeah, they're all there to be picked up again. I would never leave them just in the past. There's always, because you know, it isn't an ending, the end of a book. It's just you're just pausing on a moment in time where probably things are sort of reasonably neatly tied up, but life doesn't work. You know, they're not going to stay like that, are they? Things, you know, things will happen the next day, and it is always interesting to wonder.
Absolutely.
It's always interesting to wonder.
Great question. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was very interesting.
Yeah. And then another one from Claire, who says, which of your books would you most like to see as a film or a TV?
Oh gosh. Or the one set on the Orient Express would be amazing, I think. A Night on the Orient
Was that
Express.
a quick read?
No. It was a full length.
That was a novel. Okay.
Yeah. That would be. I just think that would be fun. Because it's so glamorous and escapist, and yeah, I think that would be amazing. I quite like the Forever House actually, because I like the family that was in that. They were sort of, because the mother was a bit of a mad writer, so possibly a bit of me in there.
Who would you cast as the mother? I'm quite interested.
Oh, that's a really difficult question, because I can't actually remember how. So again, it was dual timeline. So there was part of her in the 60s, when she first started writing, and then the contemporary story was she and her husband having to sell the house because they're of a certain age and he's ill, so she's probably 70 odd. I kind of saw her as a bit Edna O'Brien-y, you know, kind of
Yeah.
and sort of slightly bohemian, and all the men in love with her. But I don't know who I'd cast. Who would I cast?
Keeley Hawes. I could see her. No.
Maybe somebody a bit more. Oh, Helena Bonham Carter.
Oh
yes. She's so great.
Oh yes. Oh, that's
yes.
great.
She's a bit. Margot was a bit sort of eccentric herself and a bit independent, a bit naughty. So I think Helena Bonham Carter definitely would do that. Amazing. Right, I'm gonna pitch it.
Do it. Pitch it. Heard it here first.
Yes. We'll all go to the premiere together.
Another one from Kate. Which character do you wish was real and you could have as a person?
Oh, golly. Oh, do I choose a man?
Tricky.
Gosh. Oh, let me think. Oh, sorry, I can't.
Don't worry.
This was one of my first books. The son in that, Patrick. I don't know. I've always been a bit obsessed with him, and I actually named my third son after him. Is that weird?
Wow, that's awesome. I think that's really cool.
It is really cool because he's just like all the gorgeous boys that I grew up with that I never got anywhere near, that kind of racketed about in a sports car and were a bit cool and sort of unattainable. So Patrick kind of sums them up, but he's also like really trying to hold the family together, and his dad's completely useless. His dad's a bit of a drinker and a bit of a shagger. So Patrick's trying to step up to the plate. So he's that lovely mixture of sort of Yeah, perfectly capable of getting up to no good himself, but just saving the family, which is very sexy, isn't it? So yes,
Absolutely.
my little Paddy, who's 18 now.
Oh, love him.
If
What's
he
he
knows
up
that.
to?
What, my son? Or he's working at Berry Brothers Wine Merchants.
Oh, brilliant. Awesome.
Doing hospitality. So yeah, in the same business, the drink trade, same as the original Patrick Lydiard. Yeah. Yeah.
That's spooky, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Little does he know.
Yeah, absolutely. Great,
And
brilliant.
I've got his landlord and landlady who he lodges with hooked on the Honeycut books as well, which is
No
weird. I
way.
haven't told
And
them.
does she know that you're his mum?
Does she know that? I don't know. Yes.
Oh, okay, okay. So, it's not like "Oh, I love these books. They're amazing," and he's, like, keeping them, That would be brilliant. That'd be so funny.
Yeah.
Um, but no, let's talk about, the impulse purchase, which
Oh,
is coming out next only a couple of months away, February, a couple of weeks
2022.
away.
Yeah, it's on the 3rd of February, I think it's coming
Yes.
out. Yeah.
And it's it's wonderful. It's on NetGalley. I've been
Oh,
lucky enough to have a little
oh,
sneak read and
excellent.
love it. It's
Oh,
brilliant.
thank you.
And I just love the concept because it's a family, isn't it? It's a grandmother, a mother, and a daughter,
Yes,
and
that's
the
right.
grandmother buys a pub on,
Yeah.
on an impulse.
Yeah.
And just all of the things that happen after that, and glorious. I
Oh,
really enjoyed it. So
oh,
yeah, so tell us a little bit about writing that and where you're at with it now.
I really wanted a heroine who was older than most commercial fiction heroines. So Cherry is sort of late 60s, heading for 70, but she's I've got so many friends that age, and friends of my mother who I've seen enter into older age, who are still just incredible and so inspiring and so active and so dynamic, and just nothing stops just because they're supposed to be at retirement age. And I really wanted to reflect that. So Cherry kind of has played second fiddle to her husband a little bit during their life. He's an art lecturer at a university, so she's followed him around and kind of brought the family up. She's really good at renovating houses, so she's flipped a lot of their houses, and she's not been idle, and she's smart. She's really smart. She's got a good gut, which is why husband is behaving slightly badly. She's just been left money by her mum. Again, a thing that very often happens at that age. You might get a slightly life-changing inheritance, which is sad, but and she just goes, right, an opportunity comes up, and she buys the pub in the village where she grew up, which she loves. The whole family have always, they've been there throughout all of their lives. It's where they go for Sunday lunch when they visit her mother. It's been part of their lives, and is about to be sold off. And she just thinks, no, I think I can do that. And of course, her husband's horrified. He's like, "You what?" He's like, "That's the quickest way to lose a lot of money." It's that old that joke. How do you make £1 million running a pub? Start with 2 million. Like, quickest. But she's determined. She thinks, I've got the skills. And then gradually she draws her daughter and then her granddaughter. Oh God, I'm giving the whole plot away. And that, they're a team. And again, that's what I wanted to reflect. I love that multi-generational grandmother, daughter, granddaughter bond, and how they learn from each other. So that, the wisdom is being passed down, but then also the energy and the zest for life and the sort of how it all works now stuff is being passed up. So it's kind of a really interesting flow of energy and excitement and skill and wisdom and talent and bravado and entrepreneurialism.
Different connections as well. The connections they make are just so interesting, and having that multi-generational, I think, just opens it up.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And they all have Yeah, they all have a different idea about how each other should be behaving and what. It's like, Gran, you shouldn't be doing that. Or,
Yes.
they're never judgy, but they can really help each other out with the decisions that we all have to make on a daily basis, whether it's as trivial as what to wear, or whether to, get romantically involved with somebody, or, make a massive life choice, move house or move job, or, so it's all of that, really.
Absolutely. We've got some really nice comments on that one. Lynn says, oh, that sounds good.
Oh, well, 'tis available to buy.
Yes. And then Claire says, oh, can't wait for this one.
Thank you.
Oh, sounds good. Where would you recommend that they buy it?
Oh gosh, well, it depends on your. It'd be lovely. I'm a big fan of independent bookshops, obviously. In fact, I wrote a book about a bookshop. So if you've got a nice little bookshop in your local town, it would be really lovely to go and order it from there. But there's lots of systems online where you could order it from there too. Like there's bookshop.org, I think.
Yes. And that supports local indies, doesn't it? Bookshop.org.
Yeah, it basically will find the nearest one to you, and you could get it from there. Or there's something called Hive as well. You can pre-order it from the A Word, Amazon. Just some people like to have it arrive the day
Anyway,
it comes out.
you get it. Even the library will have it. And
the library will have it, yes.
The library, yep. You do get something back, don't you?
We do, yes. All authors get a small payment every time one of their books is borrowed, which adds up. So yeah, it'll be available on audiobook. I believe it's being recorded tomorrow and the next day, this week. Yeah. Pardon?
Who's reading it?
I think her name is Fenella, and I don't know how to pronounce her last name. I don't know if I'm allowed to say, actually.
Oh, sorry, Joe.
No, it's all right. I'm sure it's fine, but I just don't think it's out in the. I better not say, just in case it's a big secret.
She's wonderful, though.
It's really great.
They just make it, don't they? The audio
atmospheric,
bit.
yeah, brings it to life. So yeah, no, it was fun. It was fun to write. It was really fun to write, and they all have very different stories. I also wanted to sort of for it not to be typical of their age group. So Cherry, for example, is you might expect her to be the widow, but in fact she's the one that's having marriage problems, and then her daughter Maggie is actually very sadly widowed. So it's kind of flipping that expectation, and then the granddaughter is a single mum. So it's and very young. So it's just sort of reflecting slightly different age expectations.
Brilliant. No, that's
and how they get each other through it.
Honestly, like, so many people are looking forward to that. I mean, we were hoping, oh my God, that if you were with us in person, we might even have had a proof to give away. But you know what? NetGalley or pre-order. That is the way to go.
Yeah, you can certainly pre-order it, and maybe I can come to the library in February in real life.
Yes, that would be amazing. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Impulse purchase. Wonderful.
And I'm all for impulse purchases as well. I think they're great. Yeah, because it's sort of really true to you. Well, when you see something and you just think, oh, I want that. That's because it's your heart. You must have it.
Yes. It's something about the heart and like the universe, and something just pulls you. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree. That's what I tell people anyway. And also, what will you be writing next?
Well, I'm writing the next one at the moment, and it's set in Paris, and that's all I can tell you. But I did manage to get a sneaky trip to Paris in just before the world went weird again.
Good.
Which was great. I went in November, and it was really lovely. I went on the Eurostar. I hadn't been on the Eurostar before. I can really recommend that. It's so much easier than an aeroplane.
Absolutely. Just get in a train. That's it. King's Cross.
So much
Boom.
easier. You don't have to worry about decanting all your stuff into silly little bottles. You can bring back whatever you like. It was great. It was really great. And it's not, it's not as expensive. If you go to the airport, you've got parking, you've got this, that, and the other, and da, 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 da. It's just very, very nice way to travel.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, wonderful.
So yeah,
Oh,
that was my holiday for myself. It was only a few nights, but it was a real treat.
So we've got a Paris book coming out 2023. Is that
it will be? Yeah, I get. Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, very exciting. Brilliant. Thank you.
Mm.
Well, we've reached the point in our interview where I ask everybody, and I'm really, really actually excited to hear what you answers this question. What writing tips would you like to share for wannabe writers?
Oh golly. Don't get distracted by whatever everybody else is doing. I think that's I suffer from that. Everybody suffers from that. You think, oh my God, I should be writing crime. I should be writing murders. I should be writing something harder. I should be writing softer. I should have more sex in it. I should have less sex in it. Drives you nuts. Just write the story that you want to write. Believe in your story and believe in your voice. Believe in, your personal own true tale that you want to tell. It's kind of like, it's like being on a tightrope and not looking down. If you look down and start to listen to all of those other voices, you'll kind of fall off. But if you just keep looking ahead and keep going, and not be distracted, I think it just makes the creative process much easier. Other people's nonsense is just it just destroys your confidence. And there's a million ways you could write a book, so you've just got to stick to your guns, really, and just keep on that tightrope and keep looking ahead and believe. Again, a lot of that comes from the gut. Obviously you have to polish it and change it, and there will be an editorial process to make the story better and better and better and better. But if you've got a really good, strong idea, just go with it. Does that make any sense at all?
No, that's wonderful. And actually, that's some really wonderful, I think, positive advice. So thank you so much for that. That's really, really encouraging, I think, definitely, for a lot of people out there who, are thinking of writing or trying to write or trying to get published. I think that'd be great advice for them.
I think write the book that you want to read is probably, yeah.
Absolutely. We have a lovely comment from Lynn who says, I'm glad this event wasn't actually at the library. It's in Scotland.
Hello.
Oh,
yeah, I know. It's been absolutely great because a wedding at the Beach Hut came out when COVID just kicked off, and it was terrible because it was due to come out in May, and the supermarkets all shut down non-essential items. The bookshops were all shut, and it was like, oh my God, this is not a good time to be bringing out a book. But actually my publishers stuck with it and kind of believed that everything was going to slightly come all right, and in fact it did. The supermarkets opened back up, and actually absolutely everybody wanted to go to a beach hut in a book, so it did really well. But it was also lovely because that's when Zoom took off, and I did some really fantastic online events, and reached, as you say, I wouldn't have seen you tonight, Lynn, because you wouldn't have been here. But it's very lovely to meet you.
No, it's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great.
I mean, on the subject of COVID and digital and online events, what has your experience been of being a writer during the pandemic?
Well, we're very used to being isolated and working from home and working on our own and being self-motivated and juggling all of that. So from that point of view, it wasn't that the work wasn't difficult, but obviously one's mental health was precarious because I think everybody's was. So it was devastating. It still is. It's still extremely worrying and extremely anxiety inducing. And I don't know about everybody else, but I don't particularly worry about myself. I worry about my family, my children, and my mum, and that's what's going round and round in your head. I'm absolutely fine. I'm at home. I know I'm looked after. I looked after myself. It's fine. Wasn't worried about myself, but that anxiousness isn't conducive to being creative. And of course, the worry of, is anybody ever going to buy another book? What's going to happen to the world? Does anybody, is what we're writing going to be so irrelevant because the whole world's, changed so much?
Well, I think, it's interesting. Like, I was talking to someone who said, publishing had one of their biggest years last year, during the pandemic. So I think it just shows even more than normal. People want escapism and they want
comfort. They want comfort, and they want that sort of that they want that switch off. I think it's really nice because your brain's doing a lot of work when you're reading. I think because you're the director of the show. You're exercising your imagination, and it is entirely your show in your head. So it's very, as long as you can make that leap and get absorbed by it, then it is a real comfort and a real escape and a respite. It's respite, isn't it, from the worry? But I know a lot of people, and I think a lot of people of my age, that sort of menopausal whatever, find reading really hard. Where once it was like breathing, and it's suddenly something doesn't work in your brain.
Is it the concentration part, do you think? Or
I don't know what it is. I don't know, but I have heard of a lot of people who've said, at mid-50s, can't do it. What's happening to me? This is the thing that I rely on for enjoyment, and it's just like wading through treacle. But luckily, quite often it does come back, and quite often, you kind of go into what I'd call reading rehab. You start off with something gentle, not very demanding, or something that you're already very familiar with. I went back to childhood books, reread like The Secret Garden. Just to make my brain be able to do that thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Or something like a quick read, which I think we definitely touch on, because you have been instrumental in this sort of movement by the reading agency. So yeah, tell us about quick reads.
Oh, quick reads are a brilliant. It's the reading agency charity set up to bring out 6 books a year, about 20,000 words, so about a fifth of the length of a traditional paperback.
It's like 100 pages or less, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, I mean, and they're quite simple, and again, which doesn't mean easy, but they're not a complicated plot, and the language is fairly straightforward. So there won't be very long words or very long sentences or elaborate sentence structures, and they're designed for the less confident reader, whether it's somebody who's just started reading as an adult, or just isn't keen on reading. They're used a lot in prisons because there's a big link between literacy and reoffending, and there's less chance of reoffending if you're literate, apparently. So they're very, very, very useful tools, and they're often used in the workplace as well. Trade unions use them to help their workforce, increase their literacy powers, and build people's confidence, really. So, and yeah, it's been a huge privilege to work with them and have a quick read brought out.
Yeah, for sure.
Pinch me moment.
And it's so nice, to be able to have these, to promote them in the libraries, because I think there are people who come in the library and maybe, want to go on a computer, or, just want to look at the paper and thinking, oh God, no, I couldn't read a whole novel. I couldn't read a whole novel. And we can go, oh, just have this. It's a quick read, less than 100 pages, fewer than 100 pages, crime or romance, or
something for everybody, really. Every year, as I said, there's 6, so there's usually a crime, something a bit softer, maybe something non-fiction-y, maybe something funny. So yeah, there's a little bit of
absolutely, and it just helps keep their confidence. A book, I like that. A book snack. I'm going to use that. But we have, I know we have an established reading group set up for quick reads, which has been
Okay,
brilliant for
cool.
people just, either going through a reading slump
Mm.
or
Well,
who
as
may
I just described, yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
who don't have English as a first language,
Yes,
just
absolutely.
getting into reading. And we're hoping to get another one started. So yeah, thank you very much for your quick
Oh,
read.
no,
This
it's great.
really
Fabulous.
helped us. Thank you.
Good. Good, good. I think we're all pleased that they're
Yeah,
so popular.
absolutely. Well, we are out of time.
We
That
are.
was a wonderful hour. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, well, I wish I could see everybody, but I can't. But it was lovely to see you all, or listen to you all, or
Thank
talk
you
to
so
you
much
all.
for tuning in.
Thank you, and have a lovely Christmas, everyone.
Mm, absolutely.
And
See you
get out to
soon.
those bookshops.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.